All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, so that transportation priority letter is approved. I will sign and send to Madam County Executive. The next order of business is the miniature golf course license. Again, this is the second golf-related type license. It allows somebody to establish a minimum 18-hole course, mini course, not a full golf course, obviously. Allows them to have beer, wine, and liquor for a fee, obviously coming under the jurisdictions of the Liquor Board. Are there any questions or concerns about this legislation? Okay. Entertain a motion to approve or not approve on that.
Move to approve the request.
All right, Delegate Kerr, motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, Delegate Tomlinson's for the second. Any discussion? All right, hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay. And that is one abstention. Is that correct? Okay, one abstention. Next item, the hatchet throwing license. This is, as I understand, there's already existing business in Frederick County that does this. There's one out in Cumberland that does it. One modification that we did was we removed liquor. So for this type of license, we're just doing beer and wine. We'll see how that goes. One recommended suggestion that we may have to do is lower the licensing fee from $1,500 to I think $650 or $600. Don, real quick, what's that number?
That would be the beer and wine, which would follow is 160.
Well, okay, we'll have to discuss that. So what we'll do is we can approve or not approve the license today. We may lower the fee because they don't have liquor, and traditionally beer and wine licenses are a little less expensive than beer, wine, and liquor. But this would get the business up and running. So aside from that change, there's also some requirements. They have to have 5 bays, traditional hatchet throwing stuff. Does anyone have any questions or concerns about this legislation? Okay. Hearing none, we'll entertain a motion to approve or not approve.
All right. You're good.
To approve.
Excuse me, I couldn't get in. So I'm on my chief of staff's computer. I've been in the waiting room. I do have concerns about this. For the record, I have a real problem mixing alcohol and hatchet throwing.
Okay. Any, aside from that I guess comment, any I don't know, is this Jonathan, is the senator coming back?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Senator
Don
Lewis Young,
Sugars
did
has
you
her hand
want
raised.
to ask the administrator of the Liquor Board any specific questions about it?
Sure. Do we have any kind of data on similar venues that have similar allowances? And 2 questions. One, any record of accidents or incidents, and what are the safety protocols? And would this applicant be following the strictest possible safety protocols?
Go ahead, Don.
This was discussed at the first Saturday of December when they came in and talked about the accident rate and what they do. And they take it by appointment only. They are not just hatchet throwing for hours upon hours. There is a small window of time. You rent the bay. But here's the biggest thing that I would say that I would ask the delegation respectfully to consider is there a BYOA right now, and there's no controls. There's no food requirements. There's no anything to control the rate of drinking. So this would fall into the criteria of needing alcohol awareness. It would have our inspectors be visiting there for inspections. So actually this bill creates more safety in our opinion than it would right now being unregulated.
But if we pass the BYOB, legislation at this meeting, then technically they would be regulated, correct?
The BYOA bill that is drafted as it is now does not contain as many restrictions as this would. We would be able to regulate much more with this bill specific to them than we would under the BYOA.
Thank you for the clarification.
And also, there's an existing hatchet throwing business, I believe, in District 3 right now. And as what I understand is that the bays, the hatchet throwing bays, are kind of off from each other, and so it's not like they're just everyone's standing in a room throwing hatchets at each other. They're in silos where they're throwing it at a target. You know, it's like one person forward and people are behind them. So it's not. I mean, I know it's hard to explain, but it perceives safer than it. I mean, it's safer in reality than it sounds, I should say. And there's an existing hatchet throwing license in Cumberland that's in existence now with a license, and I think they're doing fine.
Thank you. Maybe I should bet
Questions?
bad visual.
Yeah, definitely. Delegate Tomlinson.
I was just gonna say, I've been to one of these before up in Hanover, Pennsylvania. Yes, they're not just a free for all where axes or hatchets are flying around. I mean, you are with your group of 4 people are with an individual from the business who is having you throw it one by one, watching, guiding you, training you. So yeah, it's not as wild and chaotic as it may sound.
Thank you, Delegate. Delegate Kerr.
Yes, Senator Lewis Young, it's somewhat akin to throwing darts.
That's a good analogy. I like that. That's good. Yeah, they're not throwing the darts at each other. That's good. And then Lynn is Lynn, are you a member of the delegation?
I'm so sorry. I'm a council member. I was trying to figure out how to unraise my hand because I've been to the hatchet throwing in Frederick, but I apologize.
No worries. Looks like you figured it out. You're good. Okay. So does that answer everyone's questions and concerns?
I repeat my motion to approve.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Is there a second? Looks like Delegate Rose raised her hand a second. All in favor, or I'm sorry, any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, and then looks like unanimous, 1 abstention on that. Okay, moving along. Sunday hours. This bill does one thing. In Frederick County, Monday through Saturday, you can sell alcohol. It's not required, but you are permitted to sell alcohol from 6 a.m. to 2 a.m. On Sundays, currently, you're permitted to sell from 10 a.m. to 2 a.m. What this bill does, it just makes every day the same. 6 a.m. to 2 a.m. We talked about it related to fishing and other things. Really, the reason Sunday hours were different, it was because what we had were blue laws in the state where there were some prohibitions on Sundays. Are there any questions or concerns about this bill?
Mr. Chair, I move approval.
Thank you, Delegate Fair. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Senator Lewis Young. Any discussion? All right, hearing none. All those in favor of approval signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Perfect. That's good. Next one, tasting permit. So currently in Frederick County, a Class A, which is a liquor store. You can be a Class A liquor store that sells beer and wine. You can be a Class A store that sells beer, wine, and liquor. A few years back, we gave them permission to allow someone to come in and taste a product, let's say before buying it, or let's say they were doing some sort of exhibition where, you know, some beer company came in and were giving out tastings similar to what you would see like at a supermarket, where you could taste like I don't know, meat or a cheese and cracker while shopping at Costco or something. So what this bill does is it clarifies how much you can taste, because again, we want people just tasting, not drinking a significant amount of consumption. The way the bill came back originally was unclear. It almost made it seem like you could have 3 full drinks, which is problematic. So I had them change it to where the bill says as follows, and you'll see the amended version. It says someone can come in and have 1 beer, or they can come in and have 1 glass of wine, or they can come in and have 1 mixed drink as a tasting, or they can have a combination of the 3, but it cannot exceed a certain ounce limit. That way, no one person can have more than 1 drink at any visit. And it's to keep people from having, more than they should for a tasting. And the reason we did a full beer is because if you're a store, you open a drink, it's like you're wasting it. And so it's similar to like a barber shop or a nail salon, you can have 1 drink. So that is the amendment that was signed off by the DLS. Are there any questions or concerns with this bill? Okay. Hearing none, is there a motion to approve?
Move to approve.
Okay, Senator Lewis Young, motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Second, Delegate Fair. Any discussion? Okay.
I just, Mr. Chair, just a point of clarification.
Sure.
We're approving I was just looking at the bill again. This is the one with the handwritten notes on the bill itself, but we're just accepting that even though it's just drafted and not actually updated. Okay, thank you. I just want to make sure. Thanks.
Yeah, and I didn't make those handwritten notes. That was done by the head of the actual drafting department in DLS, who has the juice to hand cross out things and initial. I'm like, oh, that's a pretty powerful guy. So
fair enough.
That's what that is. Okay. So all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right. Unanimous with 1 abstention. All right. The next item is the Town of Mount Airy Urban Renewal Authority. We tabled this from last meeting just for some clarification from the District 5 crew. Maybe Senator Reedy can just give us a quick update on that, and then we can move forward.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I believe we have some folks from Mount Airy on the call with us. I think the main questions that I heard surfacing last week that we didn't have a clear answer on was, this is not something unusual. 69 other cities do this, including a couple now, and a couple more in Washington County, and some in Frederick County already have this authority. But the questions from the delegation members involved, is it how public is the process to getting to this point? How quickly can a town take this kind of action? And I think we have a member of the Mount Airy County Council, City Council on with us. Mr. Chairman, if I could offer the chance for them to update us. If not, I can try to do it from what I know.
Yeah, of course. Well, we'd love to hear from the council.
Hi, this is Council Member Lynn Galletti.
Yes, there you go.
Thank you for having me. I do apologize profusely. I did plan to be in your meeting last Friday. I actually teach in Frederick County and got 2 new students Friday. So respectfully, I apologize for not being there last Friday to be able to answer your questions. So any questions that anybody has, I did go through your meeting and I wrote down all your questions and concerns. I also have our town administrator, David Warrington, on the line, who last year when Hancock and I believe Williamsport got Urban Renewal Authority, they came to David to get all the paperwork and he helped them get their paperwork done. So if anybody has any questions, we are happy to answer those questions.
I think if I can recall correctly, the concerns were around just the public process. So I think everyone's read the bill. They kind of know what the bill enables the town to do. They just want to make sure that there is a robust public process, whether it's identifying property, and then there's a public process for property rights and such before any town actions are taken. If you could maybe just confirm that portion, and then we can move forward.
Yeah, I'll confirm, and then I'll ask David to step in for the other details. As far as the public process, We are very much doing a lot of public meetings now for, excuse me, everything happening in the town of Mount Airy. So there is a public process, there is public notification. And David, would you step in on all the details? Because he's a much better expert at this than I am. I have read it all and I am comfortable with it as a council member and elected official, but I'd like him to give you guys the details. David, are you there?
David?
Did we lose him?
I don't know. Let's see.
He said he's trying to get it back open. So let me go ahead
Yeah.
with your first question about the public. So the procedure is we identify blighted properties. We do not go take properties. I want to make sure. I saw someone had a question last week about eminent domain versus urban renewal. Eminent domain is only for a construction project for a road or highway type project. Urban renewal is blighted or rundown properties. We had a bank building in Mount Airy on Main Street that was run down for over 20 years. And the windows were getting broken. It was getting vandalized. Back in 2020, Delegate Cox and the Frederick delegation endorsed us getting urban renewal. And once that discussion started, the owner of that building really jumped up and said, oh, I better do something. And it's to get these business owners to the table to say, hey, we want to work with you. Please come talk to us, because we've tried that. And as we said, for about 20 years, that owner wasn't doing anything till the idea of, oh, now I really need to do something happened. And if you come to Mount Airy, and I'd love to invite you all there, we have a brand new microbrewery that brings in food trucks from all over Frederick County and is really stimulating the economy in downtown Mount Airy and bringing people down to our businesses on our main street. So it's a tool. We want to be able to do something like that. And there's absolutely, identify, get them to come to the table to talk with us. Once we do that, there has to be a plan in place. And then it has to go towards our planning commission. Then it has to come to the legislative body, us, the town council, to look at it and say, okay, we're giving the staff authority to go ahead and talk to that property owner. So there's a lot of steps in place. There's a lot of safeguards. I myself have been a resident of downtown Mount Airy for over 30 years. And I've seen the blight in the buildings, like I said, with that bank building, and we have one or two others. So it's really to work with them to get them to the table so they can, we can work and get these improvements done. Because as you all know, especially in Frederick County and Carroll County too, because part of our town's in Carroll County, but you all literally represent the Mount Airy portion of Frederick County. I think Delegate Boucher will tell you, Mount Airy, Frederick people helped to get him elected. But it's to get them, he thanks us profusely. It's to get them to come to the table and help us. As you guys know, it's in all of your towns and all your constituents that we need to stimulate the economy post-COVID and get these businesses the support they need to be able to be successful and to, bring people downtown, which, like I said, this is just a tool for us in our toolbox, as these other 69 municipalities have. Look in Frederick. Frederick got it in 1951, and some great things have been done in Frederick to, stimulate their local economy and really do some improvements. So we're just asking for your support to get that. And I think that pretty much just covers everybody else's questions from last week. And I apologize if I missed any. I'm happy to answer them.
Mr. Chairman, if you don't mind, if I interject one comment.
Go ahead.
So I just to follow up on Councilwoman Galletti. So she talked about having to have a plan and going to the elected body. And it's clear, what's important is they have to go through a process to come up with a plan, take it to their planning and zoning commission, which has public hearings. And then they have to go to a public hearing with their council. And that's before they can even talk to the business owner about how they might do this. So it's definitely, and I was comforted by hearing all of that as well. It's definitely not even, hey, we have a vote of the council and now we're taking your property. I mean, that's not how it works. It's that's like an extreme last resort after multiple public steps and engaging with the property owner. So that I hope that helps to answer some of the questions that we had last week.
Perfect. Thank you, Senator. Delegate Miller.
Yes, I just wanted to clarify, and I thank the councilwoman for being here. I just wanted to clarify that eminent domain and urban renewal aren't mutually exclusive, at least as I'm reading it, unless I'm not reading it correctly. But it says that there is a process of eminent domain to this, and I just wanted to make sure that we were dealing with unoccupied residents versus like an occupied type residence, or that if it was an occupied type residence, that there's help for that homeowner. And I'm particularly talking about like people who are, elderly or have trouble maintaining their properties, things like that. Those are some of the things, or, for any kind of town project that would be, this would be used for. So that was where I was going with those questions. And I do appreciate the clarification on the public process as well.
Thank you. Could I comment on that? Could I answer Delegate Miller or no?
Yeah, sorry, I didn't get this question, but go ahead, Councilwoman.
So Delegate Miller, thank you so much for reminding me. That's a great question. So we are looking at businesses. We are not looking
Are
at.
you in the prior or the delegate meeting?
Mark-
I wasn't able to
Mark
get
Mishler, you put yourself on mute, sir, please.
Can I go ahead? Sorry. Delegate Miller, thank you for that, pointing that out, because we are looking at businesses that have been blighted for many years, and now we have windows getting vandalized and they're getting boarded up. We are not looking at anything with a residential component, like a rundown senior's home. And I have to tell you, we have a Mount Airy Senior Task Force in Mount Airy that our current mayor, I think actually our former late mayor Brockenberg started, and our current mayor Hushar is continuing. The Senior Task Force has become very active, and we're trying to go for a senior living designation because our population is aging, as probably in a lot of your towns. Mm-hmm. And we're trying to make sure we have things in place. Like currently we have developers coming in, and I'm pushing for not only more fields for our children, but I want some product that when people sell their homes and they can stay in Mount Airy, and more elderly friendly housing as far as villas and things like that you guys some people have gotten over in Urbana and Frederick. So we're very much, I would be completely against anything that put a senior citizen, and I did see you said that, and that's a great question when you said it last week, that senior citizens, no, that's something I would worry about, and that's not something for urban renewal. In my mind, our urban renewal is these businesses on our main roads that are falling apart. So when people jump off 70 to go to Chick-fil-A, and then they happen to come down and they see that, that's the stuff we want to work on. But thank you for saying that. It's absolutely not, we are not looking at residential or displacing anybody. And we would work with anybody if on the off chance, say someone was living in their business, we would want to know that, because why are they living in their business? Let's get them proper housing.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman.
Senator
Lewis.
No, go ahead.
Senator Lewis Young.
I have a jurisdictional question, because the county line comes right through Mount Airy. As I understand it, and looking at a map, it looks like the majority of the municipalities in Frederick, with a small bit in Carroll. So my question is this issue only coming before the Frederick County delegation? Is it being vetted in the Carroll County delegation as well? I'm concerned that I'm only voting on something that pertains strictly to Frederick County.
So
yeah,
I can answer that.
Go ahead, sorry.
Yeah. So it's already been voted on by the Carroll County delegation. And it requires an affirmative vote from both the Carroll County and the Frederick County delegation, because it's a jurisdiction in both counties, and it's a state law that would need to be changed. Hence why we're hearing the matter.
Okay, next year.
Delegate Boucher for the final thought.
Thank you, Chairman. I appreciate the senator bringing up that question. Also, I want to compliment the councilwoman for being here with us today. I want to compliment the entire elected officials, both past and present, and the administration of Mount Airy for the efforts they have done. I've watched that downtown area develop over the last 18 years. At one time, it wasn't a very pleasant place to go through. Now it is absolutely beautiful. They're taking a very conscientious effort into addressing the needs of the downtown business district. And it's creating a lot of thriving small businesses. And I have complete and utter trust in the administration of this policy if we enact it. So thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Delegate. So what we did here today, it sounds like, is that there's a very robust public process at several levels prior to any town action being taken, which I think was the main concern from the last delegation hearing about the legislation in general. So outside of that, are there any other quick questions or comments before we entertain a motion? All right, hearing none, is there a motion on the bill?
I would move that we pass that we support the legislation to allow this authority for Mount Airy.
Okay, so there's a motion to approve. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, is that, I guess that's Delegate Tomlinson, a second. Any discussion? All right, hearing none. All those in favor of approving the bill signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right, and that's all unanimous with one abstention? Okay. All right, congratulations, Councilwoman. Thank you for being here.
Thank you all so very much. Have a great day. I got to run back to my classroom. Thank you.
All right, the next bill is the basket of cheer. So let me just give you the background on this. A couple of years ago, we allowed different organizations to provide a basket of cheer, including alcoholic beverages, kind of like a gift basket, because in Maryland, you have to have a license essentially to give or sell alcohol. So one of the requirements of the permission was that it had to be alcohol that was manufactured in Maryland. And so this bill seeks to remove that requirement that it has to be manufactured in Maryland. And I don't know how I feel about that. I personally think that, it's almost like we're voting against Maryland, craft beverage. But are there any other comments, thoughts on this bill? Delegate Kerr.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As I recall, we put this bill in a few years back specifically to support Maryland businesses and tourism. And this particular piece of legislation directly contradicts the original intent. And so I will not be supporting this. Thank you.
Don, do you have a hold on, Don, for a second, because we're delegation comments. Delegate Miller.
Yes, I agree with Delegate Kerr. The craft industry, our wineries, our breweries, our distilleries are growing every day. It seems like there's a new one that's amazing. So I also am not going to be supporting this one.
Senator Lewis Young.
Aren't these basket of cheers used largely for charitable functions, charitable donations, where you're bidding on something like a silent auction and the proceeds go to that nonprofit?
Generally.
Okay, so I'm a little bit more flexible in that case. That's not significantly going to hurt the Maryland industry.
Delegate Fair.
I just had a brief comment. I will say that as a nonprofit executive director myself, I wasn't even aware this was a law that we could only put products that were made in Maryland in baskets. A lot of times nonprofits receive a lot of donations from various organizations, and we think nothing of the donation itself. I'm not saying that I would necessarily support this or not support it, but I do want to mention this. This is a complicated one already existing, saying that it has to be produced in Maryland to auction it off because of the natural nature of the work of nonprofits that we do.
Thank you, Delegate. Delegate Simpson.
Yeah, I concur. I understand the point. I do, because I've the same thing. I've done silent auctions, and you don't necessarily know where all the different donations are coming from. But I also concur with April and with Ken, I don't think it's that hard that even if you got these donations to say, okay, you would do something different with them than, the intent was to support Maryland. And I think we do have a lot of places. I concur with you. It's a little, you feel like you're voting against Maryland a little bit, especially when we have so many, but I do understand the intent. I do understand why individuals wanted to make sure that they're not breaking the law if they had gotten different, they had gotten donations from somewhere else. I just don't think would be that hard not to, just to use Maryland products.
Thank you. Yeah, and look, I mean, I had the bill drafted in my name, but I'm going to vote against it. So, I just I think Delegate Kerr summarized what occurred a couple years ago when we put it in, and it was for the express, position of supporting Maryland craft beverages. And I just want to remind our Frederick County delegation that Frederick County is home to the most craft beverages in the state of Maryland, and I'd hate to vote against them. Delegate Weigel.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Could you remind me who asked for this change?
The Liquor Board. So I'm going to let, real quick, Senator Quarterman, go ahead, sir.
Thank you. And probably the question, if you're going to defer the Liquor Board, will be helpful also. As I'm reading this, excuse me, it appears that there's a permit, I know it's at no cost, that these organizations are supposed to get from the Liquor Board already to provide these baskets of cheers. Is that correct?
Go ahead.
I'm sorry?
I'm going to let Don chime in now.
Okay, thank you.
I appreciate and respect all of the concerns, but the request came in from nonprofits because here were a few concerns. They don't always know where the donations are coming from. And I had a couple people come in, and one specific person died of childhood cancer. And she had several baskets donated from different types of alcohol. And her point was, and she made a very valid point, and then some other nonprofits followed behind it, that the tax dollars are still going to go to the retailers in Frederick County because they have to purchase or donate from Frederick County retailers. And the reason she said my hands are being tied to have to go out and search for breweries, wineries, distilleries to have them donate additional baskets when I already have these donated. So it was tying her hands in these baskets of cheer. Let me also note the concern that every other county does not have the specific language of Maryland in it. I understand the delegation's concerns. I appreciate the concerns. This came more from our nonprofits wanting to have the latitude. A lot of them do get it from breweries, wineries, distilleries, but the latitude to still get donations from local Frederick County businesses that pay their alcohol taxes back to our state. So that there's just making those points.
Yeah, and I mean, look, it's a 3-tiered system. So what Don is referring to is that, yes, technically, if you bought Coors Light and Bud Light and Miller Light, it would probably be from a local Frederick Class A store. But if it was alcohol manufactured in Maryland, it would benefit 2 Maryland tiers, not only the retailer, but the manufacturer as well. And I think that was what Delegate Kerr was referring to. Are there more hands up, or these lingering hands? Delegate Kerr.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a point of clarification, maybe I missed it, but how do we ensure that these were purchased in Maryland? Do the receipts come in with the basket? And if we are purchasing them in Maryland, what's the difference of just purchasing a Maryland beverage while you're going to the liquor store anyway?
Yeah, I mean,
I'm happy to jump in there and answer. Nonprofits are not allowed to accept any donation without a record of the donation being given to the individual who has made the donation. So in that situation, every single situation is documented, and the donations are categorized and turned into the Maryland. Yeah.
Does that include a receipt of purchase?
We don't purchase, they're donated. So they give us a donation, they tell us here's the value of the item. We issue a nonprofit receipt that says thank you for your donation valued at X number of dollars.
My question remains, how do we know it was purchased in Maryland?
There's no way to actually do that. I mean,
Exactly, which is why we wanted it to be a Maryland produced beverage. So we know that at least part of the revenue goes to the Maryland manufacturer, whether it was purchased in another state, since there is no record to verify.
And I will say that again, I'm not foreshadowing a vote here. I'm just saying that they could also purchase Maryland beverages from an out-of-state retailer, and then
But it was manufactured in Maryland.
right, or they can buy it from a Maryland retailer, which benefits that Maryland retailer, which might be an out-of-state alcohol. Might be
One way we know it was Maryland benefits, the other way we don't.
fair enough.
I've enjoyed this conversation. Delegate Weibel.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I apologize for dragging on this conversation, but Ms. Sugars, you had said it had to be purchased from a Frederick County retail license. The law just says the basket of cheer from a holder of a retail license. It doesn't say they have to be in Frederick County. Or am I missing something?
If I may, along with our special 1-day per diems, which is not attached to this particular law, you must purchase from a Frederick County retailer, period. This basket of cheer is an enhancement to that license. You cannot get it without purchasing through a Frederick County retailer. So it is in our special 1-day law. And then the basket of cheer is an endorsement to that particular one. So it does force them to Frederick County.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Well, that was a good conversation. Are there any other quick thoughts? If not, we'll entertain a motion.
Move unfavorable.
Okay. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right. Second. Any discussion? All right. And we're going to do we'll do a roll call on this vote. Unless anyone has an issue with that.
Remember, voting yes means voting no.
All right. Delegate Weibel.
No.
Delegate Kerr.
Yes. Because I voted to not approve.
Okay, hold on. You made a motion to move unfavorable.
Yes. So I support my motion to move unfavorably.
Move unfavorable. Delegate Weibel, the motion's to move unfavorable, just for clarification.
Yeah, I know. I voted no.
Okay. Delegate Kerr.
I'm yes.
Yes. Senator Porterman.
No.
Okay. Delegate Simpson.
Yes.
Delegate Fair.
Same.
Senator Lewis Young.
No.
Delegate Miller.
Yes.
Delegate Boucher. Is that an abstention? Okay. Delegate Tomlinson.
No.
Okay. Delegate Rose.
No.
Okay. Senator Reedy.
As much as I'd like to say I concur with Kim Kerr, I'm actually going to vote no.
Okay. Senator Folden.
Yes.
Who are we missing here? Delegate Valentine.
Yes.
All right, I'm a yes. We got Tomlinson already. Am I missing any members here? No. All right.
Did you get Delegate Miller? I only asked because I know she was opposite my vote, but I didn't hear her. Oh, okay, sorry.
We're getting a count here. Okay, so the vote count was 6, 6, and 2. So we're going to need to again.
No, it doesn't.
Senator Fulton.
6, 6, and 2. The motion doesn't pass. It doesn't fail. It just doesn't move.
Correct. You're right. That's right. Is that Robert rules there? That's right. If it doesn't pass, doesn't move. Is that everyone's interpretation?
Yeah, it fails for lack of a majority.
Now, there is one exception. Somebody can change their vote, but it has to happen within the context of this meeting.
But they also have to be in the winning category, I think, to change their vote.
But there was no winning category.
Bingo. All right. Well, look,
I will mention that we can entertain a different motion because that was a motion for unfavorable. There is the option to entertain a different motion too.
okay. We can, we've had, can you do that if you've had
Yes.
to move or not move the bill?
You can.
Okay.
I'll move to approve.
Okay. For a second?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I was extremely undecided and I voted against the unfavorable. I guess somebody's made a motion now. I don't really mind this thing sitting. I think it can wait. It can maybe wait if there's this much indecision. You can wait a year. That's just my personal opinion. Just offering.
All right, well, let's put this to bed. There's been a motion. Hold that thought. There's been a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Delegate Wyval seconded. All right. Any discussion? We're going to go again.
The motion to approve what?
So the previous motion was to deny, which that motion didn't pass. It was a push. So now there's a motion to approve, and it probably looks like the votes are going to change here.
So the motion now is to move favorable?
Yes.
Okay.
Motion from before. But I think my spider sense is telling me the votes will be different.
We need a second.
So there's a motion and a second. Delegate Wyval.
I vote yes.
Okay. Delegate Kerr.
I vote no.
Okay. Quarterman.
Yes.
Simpson.
I vote no.
Delegate Fair.
I vote yes.
Senator Young.
Yes.
Delegate Miller.
No.
Delegate Boucher.
Abstain.
Delegate Tomlinson.
Yes.
Delegate Rose.
Yes.
Senator Reedy.
Yes.
Valentine. Delegate Valentine.
No.
Senator Fulton.
No.
Okay. Delegate Pippi votes no. Let's go. Okay, so the bill passes 761. We'll convert that to a delegation bill. Great. Moving on. The last bill for discussion is the Alcoholic Beverages Unlicensed Establishment Bill. And we sent some information with that. And we've got about 12 minutes before our Washington County and Frederick County colleagues have to hop onto their own delegation meeting. So I just want to bring up a couple points that I sent to everybody. So currently in Maryland, the illegal sale of alcohol is a criminal offense with up to 2 years incarceration and $1,000 fine or both. That's for currently selling alcohol without a license. This bill does several things, but it mostly pertains to an unlicensed establishment. So just to kind of bring everybody back to speed here, currently in Maryland, if you bring an open container in the street, the offense is on the person doing it. In Maryland, if you cause a disruption, disturbing the peace, the offense is on the person doing it. This bill puts the liability on the business owner, whereas currently it's not. It's not on the business owner. Matter of fact, the only rules in Frederick County currently is that you cannot provide or consume alcohol at a business that is open for public after 2 a.m. That's the only current rules on the books in Frederick County, is that if you are, let's say, a hardware store, something like that, unrelated to alcohol, and you have people come over, they cannot consume and do things after 2 a.m. if you're open to the public. This bill would change those hours till midnight, and also puts liability on every non-alcohol licensed business in Frederick County. So it's a business regulation that currently does not exist. This would add that it also reduces the penalties for violating these types of activities, because again, currently the sale of alcohol comes with a 2-year $1,000 fine. You can see the, what the provisions are. Senator Young, do you want to briefly discuss your bill?
Well, I would prefer that Delegate Fair does. However, I would somewhat disagree with your interpretation of this bill. And perhaps Ms. Sugars can speak best to that. There was something you said, and I'm trying to find it in the language. Not putting the onus on the owner, that wasn't the issue, but reducing the fine. I mean, there is no fine now. These kind of establishments are totally unregulated now. What this bill attempts to do is to give law enforcement some capability for enforcement. So I would disagree with your interpretation, but I think that those individuals that were responsible for the drafting could speak to that.
Okay.
So I am happy to just say a few words and then pass it over to Dawn to really get into the details here. But I will stress that, as Senator Lewis Young just pointed out, we are operating with no guards at all when it comes to the application of this law. Whereas establishments that actively sell alcohol, which this, again, establishment doesn't sell alcohol, but provides the space to consume alcohol in a very unique way. You pay a fee, you bring your own alcohol, and it's essentially the exact same thing, but a workaround. This bill seeks to remedy that by bringing them actually in line with establishments that sell alcohol. And so by providing a very baseline of regulations, and I cannot stress this enough with our delegation here today, there are big major tools that can be used to bring BYO establishments in line. This was vetted and worked with countless stakeholders in order to be the lightest possible touch that we could provide while still guaranteeing that residents and individuals that surround those establishments feel safe and don't have to deal with the ramifications of a zero regulated body. And so that's where we're looking at this from the perspective of, let's find a reasonable compromise, which is what this legislation, I believe, does. It brings together law enforcement, it brings together municipalities, it brings together residents and business owners, and creates an equitable playing field for businesses that sell alcohol throughout the state of, or throughout the county of Frederick, and those that do not, but rather just simply take a door charge and allow people to bring as much alcohol into their establishment as they want. Dawn, I'll turn it over to you for more detail.
Hold on a second. Delegate Simpson.
I just was hoping, Chris, I know that you have the answer to this. Some of the questions that have come in about this particular bill is how does it relate to clubs? You know, some groups that people are a part of, and a rough idea of how many establishments. And I don't know how well we know that, that it would be related to.
It's a great question about how many establishments it's related to. The law enforcement has come to us and said, we just need a tool, right? We need something that has teeth in it that we can then, when we receive a complaint or we receive a comment that a facility is operating inappropriately, we can then go in and enforce an actual policy. They currently have made it very clear they have nothing they can do. I can't speak to the number of facilities. I will say in my late night note from Ms. Sugars, she commented that she's reached out to a couple of fire halls who have understood and respect the onus and the intent of this bill.
Okay, Delegate Kerr.
I move favorable, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Okay, we're going to have discussion. So, all due respect, the City of Frederick Police Department's not enforcing the laws in the books now. The fact that it's a criminal offense to sell alcohol illegally, and they've been doing it at a particular location, which is the precipitous of this bill, leads me to think that passing a bill which would add onerous regulation on every single business in Frederick County, this law would impact. It puts new regulation and new liability on every single business in Frederick County, not just the City of Frederick, which we love, but it puts it on all the other municipalities, all the other businesses all throughout the county. And it comes down to the fact that they're not currently enforcing the law now. It's illegal to sell alcohol right now. It's a criminal offense. You can be fined $1,000. You can go to jail for 2 years, and they're not enforcing the law now. And so the solution here, in my mind, is not to put in dram shop laws, which essentially is what this is. And then the other thing I'm just going to say is, was this a priority of the liquor board? Don?
I would prefer for for Ms. Sugars to answer some of your concerns, but moreover, Ms. Sugars is the appropriate person to answer that question, Mr. Chair.
Go ahead, Don. Start with, was this one of your priorities?
This came from residents, not our priority, but residents directly to the city police. And can I expand on some of the concerns that you were discussing of where this came from and how it came to fruition? The city police, I've met with them this week through a nighttime economy task force. And they mentioned that the 2 years, $10,000 fine, not even 1,000, but 10,000, no one was enforcing because a judge would never uphold that. What they needed was some tools and some resources that were manageable. And they feel like by expanding it to a 90-day $500 citation, it would gain the attention of those that are offending, give law enforcement the tools they need in order to enforce the ones that are breaking the rules. So that there in clubs, to address Delegate Simpson's concerns, there are some clubs that are BYOA. Most of our clubs are licensed, but there are some. And some of them we have one in particular that I've talked to, that if they go after midnight, that's a rarity. You know, they don't want to have a lot of after hours type situations with clubs. That's only one that I know of that's BYOA. Fire departments, I've talked to a few of them, and they don't like to have their events past midnight as well. So addressing the concerns, I did talk to Captain Henneberry from the Frederick City Police, the mayor. We met this week and they discussed they just needed something, a tangible tool that a judge would enforce with the $500 fine and a 90-day jail, and they can issue the citation on the spot. That's what they were really looking for. But it was not our initiative.
Mr. Chairman.
Senator Folden.
Thank you. So I hear what you're saying, Ms. Sugars, and can they not already in the city of Frederick adopt their own local ordinance to establish that fine already, if they so choose, instead of trying to make this a countywide issue, which it is not. And the other point that I want to answer or respond to is that if the judge is not doing their due diligence with something that's already on the books, that's an issue to go through the judiciary. That's hold them accountable. But to basically hold other businesses and liable for someone else's actions is not a good, that's not a good message from us because overwhelmingly our small business owners are very responsible. They're doing their due diligence and to be able to say that now we're going to hold them liable for someone else's actions that is outside their scope of the curtilage of their establishment is wholly inappropriate.
Senator, I respectfully disagree. I think that what we're talking about here is businesses that are providing spaces deliberately for the intention of consuming alcohol. However, you can't draft, as you know, this is a catch-22. There is no way to draft legislation that says that. It is not possible because you can't prove that an establishment is or is not existing to allow for the consumption of alcohol that is not being sold to them. So we're trying to thread a very, very tight needle here for an issue that is not just city-based. It is actually county-based. There is issues throughout the county with this exact challenge. And again, Ms. Sugars can comment to the complaint-driven process of which people are stuck having to make suggestions that things should be that things should be addressed.
Delegate Fair, what other establishments outside of the one that we know of having this issue, which this bill stems from, please, I would like you to expound, not just make a blanket statement. I want to know other establishments that are having this issue.
I apologize if it wasn't clear. I just said we would have to turn to Ms. Sugars because it's a complaint-driven process to provide the complaints.
Okay, Ms. Sugars, do you have any data to support Delegate Fair's comment that it is other places in the county that are driving this as well?
I do not have that data.
There is no data to support that comment. Is that correct?
I do not have any data.
So this is all being driven from one specific incident at one specific establishment up on North Market Street. Is that accurate?
I would disagree. I've heard.
Hold on. Let Ms. Sugars answer that.
That is my understanding.
Thank you, Ms. Sugars. I say we move the vote. They made the motion. It's been seconded. Time to vote.
All right. Delegate Miller for a comment. Quick one, please.
Yes. So you talked about talking to law enforcement, and since you're making this countywide, did you talk to the sheriff's department?
We did not talk to the sheriff's department.
I would want their opinion on something like that.
Are there any other brief comments before we vote on the bill? All right, we're going to do a roll call.
My hand's up. My hand's up.
Apologize.
Thank you. Yes, first of all, I heard a comment that there are already laws in place to enforce the sale of alcohol. These are not establishments that sell alcohol. And one establishment was not the driver. Yes, there was one establishment that or an incident at one establishment that was the impetus. But for me, the fact that the City of Frederick Police Department wanted a tool, that was my main impetus to support the needs of our law enforcement. And with that, I would ask that as we vote, we do a roll call.
You got it. Okay, is there a motion on the bill?
I previously moved to approve.
And I seconded.
Okay, and we're in discussion, and I'm just going to reiterate that the City of Frederick Police Department has not enforced existing laws on the books as it pertains to this issue.
They can't.
I'm not sure if adding a new law on the books that burdens every business owner in the county is going to solve every issue they're trying to solve. So, all right, Senator Young made a motion.
Louis Young, yes.
Louis Young made a motion. Kerr seconded. Senator Louis Young.
The
Go
other way around.
other way
I
around.
made,
All right, the motion's to move favorably. Senator Louis Young, go ahead.
Yes, support.
Delegate Miller.
No.
Delegate Valentine.
Mr. Chairman,
Senator Folden.
I just wanted to make sure that we restated you said the motion was to move forward. I want to
I'll restate it and then.
restate the motion, please.
So.
motion was to approve.
Yeah, the motion from Delegate Kerr was to approve. The motion seconded by Senator Louis Young. Senator Louis Young voted yes. Delegate Miller voted no. We're on Delegate Valentine.
I would just like to make one comment that one of my biggest reservations is the applicability in all of Frederick County for a problem that to this point we do not think exists. So my vote is no.
Delegate Kerr.
Yes.
Delegate Simpson.
Yes.
Senator Quarterman.
No.
Delegate Fair.
Yes.
Delegate Boucher.
Abstain.
Delegate Tomlinson.
No.
Delegate Rose.
No.
Senator Reedy.
No.
Senator Folden.
No.
Am I missing somebody? Wyvil, all right, Delegate Wyvil left, and then Delegate Pippy is a no. I gotta count. Okay, so the motion fails. It was 4 yeses, 8 noes, 1 abstention. So that bill does not move. That bill does not move forward.
Does not move forward or does not have delegation approval.
They're one and the same.
Delegation bill.
Delegation bill. I mean, I see that the senator dropped the bill, but generally bills.
Had to. Our drop date was Monday.
I understand. So we'll provide a letter just saying that the delegation voted on it and it was not voted favorably. Unless you withdraw the bill, it's your call. Okay, so that's through the voting session. There's no new business. Are there any public comments for the good of the order?
Mr. Chair.
Leaders?
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Could I just note for the record that the Delegate Wyvil had to leave because he started the Washington County delegation meeting? Thank you.
And if you need to go, delegate, you can, it's your call.
Thank you.
Yeah, and thank you for that. Any comments from any county leaders or the public? I know I saw the county executive here earlier. All right, hearing none. Any member comments? Senator Louis Young.
Thank you. On several occasions during this meeting, I have noted the disparity in representation and the fact that legislators representing 1.5% of Frederick County's population have the same vote as those of us that represent 46%. So I looked for some history and I didn't have to look too far. My predecessor, Senator Ron Young, from 2010 to 2014, had a small piece of Washington County in his district. So I asked him, what did you do when you attended Washington County meetings and you were asked to vote. And he said, when the vote was controversial, I abstained. I didn't feel right voting on controversial issues when I had such a small piece of Washington County in my district. Senator Young will go down in history as a statesman, not a politician. Those are my closing remarks.
Mr. Chairman.
Senator Fulton.
Yeah, I just wanted to I have a remark also. I think that it's time for this delegation to look and kind of come in line with all the other charter government districts. I think we need to have this discussion in the future, but I want to make everybody aware that this is a discussion that is coming, that we separate out the delegation representing Frederick County in the Senate, and we separate out the delegation representing Frederick County in the House, and each of those would then move their own, each bill for delegation would move through each accordingly and separately. So just letting everybody know that that's on the radar, and I look forward to any type of real good feedback on that. But I think we've come to that time where this is becoming much more, we need to do a better job of handling these measures and moving issues forward than allowing petty politics to come into place. So, thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Delegate Tomlinson. You're on mute.
Appreciate it. I just want to make a comment on Senator Lewis Young's remarks. This is the third week in a row where she has made comments, where you have made comments, Senator Lewis Young, about District 5 or the other representatives, and whether we should have a fair vote on this delegation. I just want to make a point that for 8 years, Carroll was in the reverse position where we had representatives from Howard County and from Frederick County who had a very small part of Carroll County. And for years, very few of those delegates and senators came over to Carroll. Delegate Pippy was one of the few that made a point to come over to Carroll. Actually, Senator Katie Fry Hester, she made a point of coming to a lot of Carroll County events out of Howard County. And I appreciated when those folks came. And when I got elected, even though, like you have pointed out over and over again, that we represent a very tiny piece of Frederick, I made a point of saying that I'm going to participate as much as possible in everything in Frederick County, including, may I say, last week, driving across pretty much all of Carroll County, halfway across Frederick County to be at a Frederick hospital meeting at 7:30 on a Monday. I did not ask for these maps. In fact, you voted for these maps. You worked on the creation of these maps. You were a part of what these maps became. So I'm just living with what we were given, and I really do not appreciate every week you giving us grief about wanting to participate. I did not ask for it, but I was given what we were handed, and I'm glad to participate in Frederick meetings. Thank you.
Thank you, Delegate. Delegate Fair.
Well, I will just say one, the senator was not involved in creating the maps. That is the Legislative Redistricting Commission that creates those maps. I will mention that I think that it's well taken, the point that the senator was making regarding the disenfranchisement of voters when 46% are represented by certain districts and not by others. I don't take it as a personal slight towards District 5 at all. I take it as a recognition that there is a natural disenfranchisement happening here when we as a committee, we as a delegation have remedies that are available to us to remedy this situation, and we're choosing not to actively engage with those remedies to lower the actual vote count of individual members from various districts, to represent the fact that their vote counts for more than our votes because of the numerical breakdown. So I would just stress with everyone, we are coming to the table. I'm coming to the table as an honest broker here, trying to work with everyone here and knowing that we have some serious challenges with folks who were trying to get up to speed on these issues, but have greater voting power, not equal voting power, greater voting power than we have at the table. And so with that, I would like to yield back my time. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Delegate Miller.
Yes, just one question. Senator Lewis Young, did you vote for the maps as they stand?
Yes,
it's a yes or no question. Yes or no?
It's not just a yes or no question, because there are lots of bills that I don't like one component of it, but I don't vote against the whole bill because there's one element that I dislike. If I like 51% of a bill, I vote for it. I voted for the maps. It's the delegation allocation that I had a problem with. And we had a remedy internally to address that. We chose not to. And I have found in this delegation, the way these meetings are run, there's a double standard. The sheriff's salary, the don't cut me off, please.
But I asked you a yes or no question.
No,
you
okay,
have your time
fine.
that you can have it.
I'm allowed to continue. We had many unanswered questions. We saw a chart that was the background for the sheriff's salary. It was flashed before us for 60 seconds. We never got to really examine it. There were bills that were unvetted, questions unanswered, but when District 3 brought forward net legislation, the minutia was nitpicked ad nauseum. We have a double standard in this delegation. It's part of a bigger problem. I object, and I will continue to raise that objection. I'm sorry if you don't like it. It's not meant personally, but we all have the statesmanship capability to deal with it effectively.
Thank you, Senator. Thank you.
Let me finish my comment. She took mine as well. So the yes or no question was only the issue about the makeup of the delegation should have been brought up when you were having those. It could have been an amendment. It could have been whatever you wanted to do as far as the maps go. But when you voted for it, there's always things that you can do. So because you're not a fan of this particular piece of it, however, Senator Folden had brought up a remedy. There's other remedies that we can take rather than bringing this up every single meeting. And I do stand by that you are disenfranchising or contributing to the disenfranchisement of the voters, as Delegate Tomlinson was saying. I believe the residents of Mount Airy would have wanted to have a strong voice in this meeting. As such, when their issues are brought forward, and those residents in that area, and again, up in northern Frederick County, they deserve to have a voice in this delegation as well. So by diluting their voice, by diluting some voices, in order to make your voice stronger or more fair, you're going to disenfranchise other voters. So it is definitely an issue that we can move forward to talk about. I have no issues doing that. However, when other things denigrate into personal attacks, as some of the earlier
personal attacks. Did I attack any?
Okay, hold on. Senator,
Point
you've
of
had
order.
2 bites at the apple. Hold on. Delegate Miller, are you done?
I just want to say, when you denigrate into personal attacks, it does, and I'm not saying right now, I'm saying it does cause issues as far as moving things forward. And that's all I'm going to say about that.
All right, I'm going to have just a final comment here, and I think we're going to be done unless anybody else has a comment. We have 15 members of this delegation. It is my priority to ensure that every single one of our members has an opportunity to discuss legislation, introduce legislation, vote on a bill, bring up any questions that you have. In every meeting that we've had, everyone has had an opportunity to chime in on every subject. No one's been cut off, no one's been cut short. Everyone's had an opportunity to participate fully in the delegation. And I will tell you this, more importantly so, we care about Emmitsburg. Because Emmitsburg was carved into Washington County, they still need representation in this county. Thurmont, because Thurmont was unfairly redistricted into Washington County, they need full representation in this delegation. Mount Airy. There are thousands and thousands of Frederick County citizens that depend on the work we do to represent them and make their lives better. I will not have individuals in this delegation disenfranchising those Frederick County citizens. Every Frederick County citizen deserves full representation in this delegation, and that's how we will operate. We have some discussion or dispute about that or debate about that, that's fine. But let me be absolutely clear. If you are a citizen of Emmitsburg, Thurmont, Mount Airy, we represent you, all of us. So let me just be absolutely clear that we're not going to minimize those districts. They are not less important than District 3 or District 4 or any other district. They are as important in this delegation, right? So are there any other comments from any of the delegation members?
Mr. Chairman, just in closing, I'll just say, we just had a vote that was split very close. And I was so had I abstained to be, I guess, the statesman, it would have failed. And as I mentioned, I was a little bit on the fence on it anyway. But look, I think we're all trying to participate in good faith, and maybe we can have more of a discussion offline on some of these issues. But we brought something from Mount Airy. I would never have dreamed of saying that somebody else that doesn't live in Mount Airy or represent Mount Airy shouldn't be able to have a say. And we had to bring the issue that Mount Airy needed before the whole delegation. And we actually had some bipartisan questioning. There were people, it wasn't a partisan issue. We had questions on sort of both sides of the aisle on that, and that was fair. So hopefully, we're trying, those of us that are in District 5, and I'm sure the District 2 folks feel the same way, we're trying to do the best we can. And we do try to listen and make sure that we're taking into account what folks that represent 3 and 4 tell us about their areas. But sometimes there's just things we don't agree with, and we may vote no on something, or we may vote yes on something because of what we believe about it. So I don't, hopefully we can move forward in a positive way. But I do think it's important for everybody watching and anybody reporting on this. We just had a vote that showed we actually had multiple people in both parties were on different sides of a vote about a delegation bill. It's because we were thinking through the issue and being collaborative. And we ended up on, we had some Republicans vote for it and some Republicans vote against it, and some Democrats voted and some Democrats vote against it, which I think that's a perfect example of what a delegation does. We're trying to do what's right for the local folks and for the county. So that's all I'll say. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, well said, Senator. All right, Victoria Venable for the closing comment.
Thank you. And I apologize for not getting my hand up quickly enough when you were calling for county officials. I wanted to acknowledge on the record that the county executive was here earlier today to give comment on the transportation priorities. I want to thank her for her time and let everyone know that the county executive's office is available if you have any questions about that. Thank you for approving that letter. I also want to thank Mark Mishler, a traffic engineer from the Department of Permitting and Planning, who was available here today to present on those priorities. So thank you for his time, and thank you all for the consideration of that letter. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you, Ms. Venable. Okay, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Thank you, Senator Fulton. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, Delegate Miller, any discussion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Have a great